All right, A/B testing. All right, so unlike Joe last week, there are no participatory activities, just me talking and y'all hopefully interjecting comments, experiences, and insights. If it's just
you're not going to make them work.
No, I'm saying if it's just me blathering on, it can be painful. But you don't get hazard duty pay for attending and staying. But feel free to interject at any time and even hijack the presentation if you would like. The audience would also probably appreciate it if you hijack this presentation. Then you'll see what I'm saying after a bit. So, A/B testing. All right. All right, so remember the Elmo. If I'm rambling on, and I probably will, feel free to call out an Elmo. And I hope you all know Elmo is enough, let's move on. So I'm just forewarning you, feel free to call an Elmo. So let's move on.
I like your reference to the Alamo. That's your reference to the Alamo, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What is A/B testing? A/B testing is also known as split testing or bucket testing. It's a method of comparing two versions of a web page or an app against each other to determine which one performs better. A/B testing is essentially an experiment where two or more variants of a page are shown to customers or users at random, and statistical analysis is used to determine which variant performs better for a given conversion goal. This allows us to compare two versions of web app or page and use data-informed decisions. Running an A/B test that directly compares a variation against its current experience lets us ask focused questions about changes to our website or app, and then collect data about the impact of that change. Testing takes the guesswork out of website optimization and enables data-informed decisions that shift business conversations from we think to we know. By measuring the impact that the changes have on our metrics, we can ensure that every change produces positive results. One of the primary marketing reasons for A/B testing is conversion rate optimization, converting visitors to customers. This is one of the tools we use to enhance our customer loyalty and customer engagement. Other tools we use are feature requests and feature voting, which we provide an easy way for our customers to communicate to us what is important to them. How impactful do you think it is when a customer gives feedback and then sees changes, improvements implemented, apparently as a result of that feedback? So this is just another marketing tool and customer engagement tool you can use to get new customers and retain customers and get your customers engaged. So how it works. So we identified the web page, app, or process or workflow for improvement. That's the control. So we take it and we modify it to create a second version of the same page, webflow, web page, or app, or whatever. This change can be as simple as a single headline, a button, or be a complete redesign of the page. You determine the criteria and what success looks like. Then half of our traffic is shown the original version of the page, known as the control, and half are shown the modified version of the page, variation. So we determine the criteria, the measurements, and what success looks like, as I said. So half the traffic is shown the control, half the traffic is shown the variation. Engagement and experience is measured and collected. As visitors are served either the control or the variation, their engagement with each experience is measured and collected in the dashboard and analyzed through a statistical engine. Then we can determine whether changing the experience had a positive, negative, or neutral effect on visitor behavior. So this is the control. And feel free to stop me at any time with any questions. And I'll tell you, if I don't have an answer, we have done simple A/B testing, but we haven't really gotten into complex A/B testing. But I prepared this presentation for work where we are considering more complex A/B testing scenarios. So why should we A/B test? It allows us to make careful changes to our user experience while collecting data on the results. This allows us to construct a hypothesis and to learn why certain elements or their experiences impact user behavior. In another way, we can be proven wrong. Our opinion about the best experience for a given goal can be proven wrong through A/B testing. More than just answering one-off questions or settling a disagreement, A/B testing can be used to continually improve a given experience or improve a single goal like conversion rate over time. It allows us to improve our sales lead quality and volume from campaign landing pages. In order to achieve that goal, the team would try A/B testing changes to the headline, visual imagery, form fields, call to action, and overall page layout. Testing one change at a time helps us to pinpoint which changes had effect on visitor behavior and which ones did not. Over time, they can be combine the effect of multiple winning changes from experiments to demonstrate measurable improvement of new experience over old one. So we can see changes in the right, changes with A/B testing. We're making more of an impactful change and getting the results we want. What can we A/B test? Headlines. Headline is practically the first thing a visitor notices on a web page. It's also what defines their first and last impression, filling in the blanks whether or not they'll go ahead and convert to a paying customer. Hence, it is imperative to be extra cautious about our site's headlines and subheadlines. Ensure they're short, to the point, catchy, and convey our desired message in the first place. Try A/B testing a few copies with different fonts, writing styles, and analyze which catches our visitors' attention the most and compels them to convert. Because everything seems so essential, business sometimes struggle to find only the most essential elements to keep on their website. With A/B testing, this problem can be solved once and for all. It provides clear information. We find creative ways to provide all necessary context and accurate product descriptions so that prospective buyers or customers do not get overwhelmed with an unorganized copy while looking for answers to their questions. Write clear copies and provide easily noticeable size charts, color options, include images, product images, offer images, and other things. And videos, product videos, demo videos, advertisements. And write simple content that will drive customers to the outcome you are looking for. We can also A/B test navigation. Another element of our website that we can optimize by A/B testing is our website's navigation. It is the most crucial element when it comes to delivering an excellent user experience. Make sure we have a clear path for our website structure and how different pages will be linked to each other and react within that structure. Navigation starts on the home page. The home page is the parent page from which all other pages emerge and links back to each other. Make sure our structure is such that visitors can easily find what they're looking for and do not get lost because of the broken navigation path. Each click should direct a visitor to the desired page. Continuing. We can A/B test subject lines. Email subject lines directly impact open rates. If a subscriber doesn't see anything they like, the email will likely wind up in trash bin. And I didn't mention this before, but you can A/B test emails and anything you send out to your customers. So this is one example, subject lines of an email. According to recent research, average open rates from more than a dozen industries range from 25 to 47%. Even if we're above average, only about half of our subscribers may open emails. A/B testing subject lines can increase our chances of getting people to click and open. Try questions versus statements. Test power words one against another. Consider using subject lines with and without emojis. We can A/B test forms. Forms are mediums through which each prospective customer get in touch with us. They become even more important if they are part of our purchase funnel. Just as no two websites are the same, no two forums addressing different audiences are the same. While a small, comprehensive form may work for some businesses, long forms might do wonders for the lead quality of other businesses. Call to action. Call to action is where all the real action takes place, whether or not visitors finish their purchases and convert if they fill out the sign-up form or not. And more such actions that have a direct bearing on our conversion. A/B testing enables us to test different call to action copies, their placement across the web page, experiment with their size, their color scheme, and so on. Such experimentation helps us understand which variations has the potential to get more conversions. And you'll constantly hear me talking about experimentation and think about hypothesis, what success looks like, and using data to determine that. Another thing we can A/B test is social proof. Social proof may take the form of recommendations, reviews from experts of particular fields, from celebrities and customers themselves. Or they can come as testimonials, media mentions, awards and badges, certifications, and so on. The presence of these proofs validates the claims made by our website. A/B testing can help us determine whether or not adding social proof is a good idea for us. If it is a good idea, what kinds of social proof should we add? And how many should we add? We can test different types of social proofs, their layouts, placement, to understand which works best for our favorite. So you can see there's just a lot of things we can use A/B testing for. So let's move on to types of A/B testing. Standard A/B testing. And we've already gone into a little bit of that. So let's move on to split A/B testing. Split A/B testing refers to an experimentation process where an entirely new version of an existing web page URL is tested to analyze which one performs better. Typically, A/B testing is used when we wish to only test front-end changes on our website. On the other hand, split URL testing is used when we wish to make significant changes to our existing page, especially in terms of the design. We're not willing to touch the existing web page design for comparison purposes. Again, traffic is split between the control and the variation, and conversion rate may be the deciding factor. A/B testing is ideal for trying out, split URL testing is ideal for trying out radical new designs while using the existing page design for comparative analysis. Split A/B testing, split testing is recommended for running tests with non-UI changes, such as switching to a different database or optimizing your page's load time and other such non-UI changes. It's also good for change to web page workflows. Workflows dramatically affect business conversions, helping test new paths before implementing changes and determine if one of the sticking points were missed. And again, it is very good for using, for testing dynamic content. Another type is multivariate testing. This refers to an experimentation method wherein variations of multiple page variables are simultaneously tested to analyze which combination of variables perform the best out of all possible permutations or simultaneously testing multiple sections on a page to see which of the combinations of changes on a page are most effective for users, rather than just telling you whether or not one page was more successful than another. This can offer more granular insights into page optimization opportunities. You can understand how different elements of a page can work best together and how to impact one over another. Multivariate testing is more complicated than regular A/B testing and is best suited for advanced marketing, product, and development professionals. When conducted properly, multivariate testing can help eliminate the need to run multiple and sequential A/B tests on a web page with similar goals. Running concurrent tests with a greater number of variations help you save time, money, and effort to come to a conclusion in the shortest time possible. Excuse me. These are some of the most common use cases for multivariate testing. Testing various combinations of headlines and images, testing combinations of body text and buttons. Multivariate testing dynamically changes elements of a page on the fly, and all users are directed to one page in which the variations are inserted, rather than being sent to different URL variations. Again, I must confess I haven't performed multivariate testing, and this is all I'm going to cover on it tonight. And if you have a question about multivariate testing, I hope someone else can answer it. So there is also multi-page testing. This is a form of experimentation where we can test changes to particular elements across multiple pages. There's funnel multi-page testing, which takes all the pages of our sales funnel, for instance, and creates new versions of each, which makes our challenger the same sales funnel, and then we test it against the control. Conventional multi-page testing is to test how the addition or removal of the recurring elements, such as security badges, testimonials, can impact conversions across an entire funnel. The advantages of multi-page testing are as follows. It enables us to create consistent experiences for our target audience. It helps our target audience to see consistent set of pages, no matter if it's the control or one of its variations. It enables us to implement the same change on several pages to ensure that our website visitors don't get distracted and bounce off between variations and designs when navigating through our website. Moving on to A/B testing processes. First, there's the research. Before building an A/B testing plan, we need to conduct a thorough research on how the website or app or control is currently performing. We'll have to collect data on everything related to how many users are coming into the site, which pages drive most traffic, the various conversion goals of different pages. A/B testing tools available can include quantitative website analytical tools such as Google Analytics, Omniture, MaxPixel, and other tools, which help us figure out our most visited pages, pages with the most time spent, or pages with the highest bounce rate. For example, we may want to start by shortlisting pages that have the highest revenue potential or the highest daily traffic. Following this, we may want to dive deeper into quantitative aspects of this traffic. Heat map tools are the leading technology used to determine where users are spending most of their time, their scrolling behavior, etc. This can help us identify problem areas on our website. Another popular tool used to do more insightful research is website user surveys. Surveys can help as a direct conduit between our website team and the end user, and often highlight issues that may have been missed in aggregate data. Further, Quantitative insights can be derived from session recording tools that collect data on visitor behavior, which helps in identifying gaps in the user journey.
So Bob,
Yes.
sorry, quick question. So who normally would do the testing to propose this to the customer so that they can get feedback? Is it QA? Is it like a UX design as part of the design thinking process? Is it development involved in that as well? How do we get the feedback into team?
I would say it depends on the company, but to me, it could be we don't have a customer support team. We have a customer success team, which is just a mindset. So instead of supporting the customer, they're to help their success. So it could be your customer success team. It could be marketing. It could be your product team. It could come from anywhere where marketing, they want to increase the customer count. And so we would work with them. And also, I would say definitely you want to include any of your data analytics professionals or specialists and get them involved, because this is heavily weighted on that. So it depends on the company. Yeah.
So are these, like when you present to the customer, are they mock-ups or are they actual like pages built? Like say if you did 2 different pages.
They're actual working pages. Like if you have to go and develop, so the page you actually are hoping is going to drive the change you want. So you have a hypothesis. We want to let's say we want to decrease customer questions on this page. So we will say we want to change one. That's the thing. You want to make the changes as small as possible, to drive the results you're looking for, because you may be throwing it away. It may not, your hypothesis may fail, and the page you're showing may be thrown away. But then again, if it wins, you want to be able to put it out right away. You don't want to send a mock. You want to get their feedback from the exact user experience.
I'm also a little bit confused by what you're saying. You're trying to get the results you're looking for. How would you know what that is if you're trying to test the waters with your hypothesis? Or is that you're just trying to get a result and then prove it whether your hypothesis is valid or not?
Right. So first of all, you do your research to find out what the problem is. Okay, what problem do we think we have? And so we've heard a well-defined problem is half solved. So you start with a well-defined problem. And then you come up with a hypothesis saying, we want a solution that is going to do this X in this amount of time. That's your hypothesis. And then you have to decide what changes you're going to do and how you're going to collect the data. And it's different between each company, what tools they have and what their hypothesis is. And then you go and you do your testing. You present this, and part of your hypothesis is you say, we're going to run this over this length of time. So you don't say like a year. You want to get quick feedback. Usually a week or 2 weeks is generally enough, which is also an iteration. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So moving on, we want to observe and formulate the hypothesis. We can get closer to our business goals by logging research, observations, and creating data-backed hypotheses aimed at increasing conversions. Without these, our test campaign is likely to be directionless. It is now that we need to analyze and make sense of the data. The best way to utilize every bit of data collated is to analyze it and make keen observations on them, and then draw website and user insights to formulate data-backed hypothesis. Fortunately, we have a data scientist on our team to help us with this endeavor. Once we have our hypothesis ready, we can then test it against the various parameters, such as how much confidence we have in it winning and its impact on macro goals. So then we create our variations. Next step is to create the variations. So we have our control and we have our variation, and we can test multiple variations against the control and see which one works best. We will create a variation based on our hypothesis of what work form UX's perspective. For example, enough people not filling out forms. Does your form have too many fields? Does it ask too personal questions or information? And maybe we can have a variation that's shorter or another variation admitting some fields or ask less personal information. Then we run our test, kick off the test and wait for the stipulated time. Remember, we specified that time in our hypothesis for achieving statistically insignificant results. And that's the important. You can't run it too short where you don't have statistically significant data, but you don't want it running too long where you're not being agile and making the most of your change at least amount of time. And then after that, we analyze the results and deploy the change if our hypothesis succeeds. Even though this is the last step in finding our campaign winner, analysis is the result is extremely important because A/B testing calls for continuous data gathering analysis. It is in this step that our entire journey can unravel. Once our testing concludes, we analyze the test results by considering the metrics like percentage increases, confidence level, direct or indirect impact on other metrics. After we have considered these numbers, if the test succeeds, we deploy the winning variation. If the test remains inconclusive or fails, we draw insights from it and implement these in our subsequent tests. So as Marcel showed, I never lose. I never fail. Either I win or I learn. So this is what this is all about. Data-driven learning. There you go. I never lose. Either I win or I learn. So as a quick overall review of the A/B testing process, we do our research to figure out where we have an improvement opportunity. We formulate our hypothesis. We create a variation or a couple of variations. Usually want to do A/B testing. One variation, we perform our testing, and then we analyze the results. So we have an A/B testing calendar. First, A/B testing should never be considered an isolated optimization exercise. It is part of a wider holistic conversion rate optimization program and should be treated as such. In plain words, we begin by analyzing existing website data and gathering visitor behavior data, and then move on to prepare a backlog of action items based on these. Further prioritizing each of these items, running tests, and drawing insights for the future. Should sound very familiar, okay? We just don't say, we're gonna run this A/B test. We should have a roadmap of what we're gonna test, where we wanna go, and as we learn, we pivot and make use of these learnings. Eventually, when, as experience optimizers, we conduct enough ad hoc based tests, we'd want to scale our A/B testing program to make it more structured. Okay. So, first step in doing this is making an A/B testing calendar. A good testing calendar or a good CRO program takes us through 4 steps. The first is measure. This stage is the planning stage of our A/B testing program. It includes measuring our website's performance in terms of how visitors are reacting to it. In this stage, we should be able to figure out what is happening on our website, why it is happening, and how visitors are reacting to it. Everything that goes on in our website should correspond to our business goals. So before everything else, we need to be sure that our business goals, what our business goals are. Tools like Google Analytics can help us measure our goals. Once we have clearly defined goals, we set up Google Analytics for our website and define our key performance indicators. This stage, however, does not simply end with defining website goals and KPIs. It also includes understanding our visitors. Once the business goals are defined, KPIs are set, and website data and visitor behavior data analyzed, it is time to prepare our backlog. Sound familiar? Should be very familiar. Our backlog should be an exhaustive list of all the elements on the website that we decide to test based on the data we analyzed. With the data backlog ready, the next step is formulating a hypothesis for each backlog item. With the data gathered in this stage and its analysis, We will now have enough context of what happens on our website and why. We formulate hypotheses based on them. In short, by the end of this stage, we will know the what's and whys of our website. So you just don't jump into A/B testing. There's a lot of setup and probably a lot of leadership buy-in you need. They need to understand the rewards of doing this because it is going to take a lot. So next step after we have our backlog, just like every time in our backlog, is prioritize our backlog. The next stage involves prioritizing our test opportunities. Prioritizing helps us scientifically sort multiple hypotheses. By now, we should be fully equipped with our website data, visitor data, and be clear on our goals. With the backlog, we prepare in the first stage and the hypothesis ready for each candidate. We are halfway there on our optimization roadmap. Now comes the main task of this stage, prioritize. In stage 2, we should be fully equipped to identify problem areas on our website and leaks in our funnel. But not every action area has equal business potential. So it becomes imperative for us to weigh out our backlog candidates before picking the ones we want to test. There are a few things to keep in mind when prioritizing items for our test campaign, like the potential for improvement, page value and cost, the importance of the page from a business perspective, traffic on the page, and so on. But how can we ensure that no subjectivity finds its way to our prioritization framework? How can we be 100% objective at this time? As humans, we give loads of importance to gut feelings and personal opinions and ideas and values because these are the things that help us everyday lives. But this is not everyday life. We try to make it as a scientific process that needs to be objective and make sound data-backed decisions and choices. The best way to read out these objectives is the CIE framework, which is the confidence, importance, and ease. These are the 3 parameters, and we must rate our test on a scale of 1 to 5 for each of these parameters. How confident are we about achieving the expected improvement through the hypothesis? How crucial is the test? How important is it for which the hypothesis is created? And ease. What is the complexity of the test? Rate. We want to rate how difficult it will be to implement the changes and identify the test. We can also use the PI to prioritize potential, importance, and ease. The PI framework was developed to answer the question, where should I test first? The whole aim of the prioritization stage in our A/B testing journey is to find the answer to this very question. The PI framework talks about 3 criteria that we should consider while choosing what to test: potential, importance, and ease. Potential means the page's ability to improve. The planning stage should equip you with all the data you need to determine this. Importance refers to a page's value, how much traffic comes to the page. If we have identified a problem page, but there is no traffic on that page, then the page is of less importance when we compare it to other pages. Ease defines how difficult it is to run a test on that particular page. One way to determine the ease of testing a page is using tools like Landing Page Analyzer to determine the current state of our landing page. Many businesses drop the idea of undertaking A/B testing campaign because they lack the resources. And you can see this is very resource intensive. There are 2 kinds of resources. Human resources. A large segment of the market does not have the dedicated optimization team, and when they do, it is usually limited to a handful of people. This is where a planned optimization calendar comes in handy. With a properly planned and prioritized backlog, a small CRO team can focus its limited resources on high stakes. Tools. There are hundreds of A/B testing tools, both low end and high end. Without the perspective of an expert, if businesses were to pick out one tool out of the lot, say the cheapest one, and start A/B testing every single item on the backlog, they will reach no statistically significant conclusion. There are two reasons for this. One, testing without prioritization is bound to fail and not reap any business profits. Two, not all tools are the same quality. Some tools may be costlier, but they're either integrated with a good qualitative and quantitative research tool or are brilliant standalone tools, making them more than capable of producing statistically significant results. There's also the lift model of prioritization. It draws on 6 conversion factors to evaluate experiences from perspective of the page visitor: value, value proposition, clarity, relevance, urgency, and anxiety. The third most crucial stage in A/B testing, after the prioritization, we'll have all the data required in the prioritized backlog. Once we have formulated a hypothesis that aligns to our goal and prioritize them, we create the variations and we flag off the test. While our test is running, we make sure it meets every requirement to produce statistically significant results before closure, like testing on accurate test traffic and not testing too many elements together, or testing for the correct amount of duration. And then we repeat. This stage is all about learning from our past and current tests and apply them to future tests. Once our test runs for the stipulated amount of time, we stop the test and start analyzing the data that has been gathered. The first thing we should realize is one of the many versions that we were being tested has performed better than all others and has won. It is time now for us to figure out why that happened. There are 3 outcomes of our test. Our variation, or one of the variations, will have won with statistical significance, or our control was better version and won over the variations, or our test failed and produced insignificant results. In the first 2 scenarios, we do not stop testing just because we have a winner. We make improvements to that version and keep testing. In the third scenario, recall all the steps and identify where we went wrong in the process and redo the test after rectifying the mistake. So again, this is just like agile development, just in our testing and improvement opportunities. How are we doing on time? I seem to be talking a long time. All right, let me just blast through this. So, points to scaling A/B testing. All right. So we want to revisit previously concluded testing. With a priorities calendar in place, we have a clear vision of what will we test next and which tests need to be run when. Once we have tested each element, most elements, we revisit each success as well as failed campaigns. We analyze the test results and determine whether there is enough data to justify running another version of the test. If there is, then we run another test. Next is increased testing frequency. While we should always be cautious of testing too many elements together, increasing our testing frequency is essential in scaling our testing program. We'll have to plan it in such a way that none of the tests affect each other or our website's performance. One way of doing this is by running tests simultaneously on different web pages of our website or testing elements of the same page at different times. Another point of scaling is spaced out testing. This flows from a previous point. If we look at the calendar, we should see that not more than 2 tests overlap each other in any given week. In a quest to increase our testing frequency, we do not want to compromise with our website's overall conversion rate. If we have 2 or more critical elements to be testing on the same web page, we need to space them out. Okay. Tracking multiple metrics. We'll usually measure an A/B test performance based on a single conversion goal and put all our trust on that goal to help us find a winning variation. But sometimes the winning variation affects other website goals as well. To scale our A/B testing program, we can track multiple metrics so that we can draw more benefits with less effort. Mistakes to avoid. First mistake is an invalid hypothesis. In A/B testing, a hypothesis is formulated before conducting a test. All the next steps depend on it. What should be changed? Why should it be changed? What the expected outcome is. If we start with the wrong hypothesis, the probability of tests succeed decreases. Taking others' words for it. Sure, someone else changed their sign-up flow and saw a 30% uplift in their conversion. But is that their test result based on their traffic and their hypothesis and their goals? Here is why we should not implement someone else's test results onto our website. No two websites are the same. What worked for them might not work for us. Their traffic will be different. Their target audience will be different. Their optimization method may have been different than ours. So we do not take what works for others as the standard. We use it and we test it. Well, we can say, can we learn from something? But we will test what we are expecting. Testing too many elements together. It makes it difficult to pinpoint which element influenced the test's success or failure. The more elements tested, the more needs there be. The more needs to be traffic on the page to justify statistical significance. Thus, prioritizing of the tests is indispensable for successful A/B testing. Ignoring statistical significance. If the gut feelings or personal opinions find a way into the hypothesis formulation, or while we're setting up A/B test goals, it is most likely to fail. Irrespective of everything, whether the test succeeds or fails, we must let it run through its entire course so that it reaches its statistical significance. For that reason, test results, no matter how good, will give us valuable insights and help us to plan our upcoming tests in a better manner. Using unbalanced traffic. Businesses often end up testing unbalanced traffic. A/B testing should be done with the appropriate traffic to get significant results. Using lower or higher traffic than required for testing increases the chances of our campaign failing or generating inconclusive results. Failing to consider external factors. Well, I missed a couple points, I'm sorry. And I've talked about this before. Testing for an incorrect duration, right? So we need to base our trafficking goals and run the test for a given set period of time for statistical significance. Failing to follow the iterative process. You know, we know how well iterative and incremental works in our development. It also works in A/B testing. Now we're moving on. Failing to consider external factors. Tests should be run in a comparable periods to produce meaningful results. It is wrong to compare website traffic on days when it gets the highest traffic to days when it witnesses lowest traffic. So we need to consider external factors which may affect our data analysis and the data we collect. Using the wrong tools. With A/B testing gaining popularity, multiple low-cost tools have come up. Not all these tools are equally good. Some tools drastically slow down our website, while others are not closely integrated with the necessary qualitative tools, such as heat maps, session recordings, and so on, which leads to data deterioration. A/B testing with such faulty tools can risk our test's success from the start. Sticking to plain vanilla A/B testing methods. While most experienced optimizers recommend that we must start our experimentation journey by running small A/B tests on our website to get the hang of the entire process. But in the long run, sticking to plain vanilla A/B testing methods won't work wonders for our organizations. For instance, if we are planning to revamp one of our website's pages entirely, we ought to make use of split testing. Meanwhile, if we're testing a series of permutations of call to action buttons, their color, the text, in image pages, banners, we should use multivariate testing. So again, as we learn, as we discover, we implement these discoveries. So it's what we do every day. So to review some of the mistakes to avoid, one mistake is testing for the incorrect duration of time. Another is using wrong tools, failing to follow an iterative process, and failing to consider external factors. So the return on investment from A/B testing can be huge and positive, but we must face some challenges when deciding to undertake A/B testing. 6 of the primary challenges are deciding what to test. So we need to decide through our research, decide what we want to test. And next is formulating hypothesis. This is where the importance of having scientific data at our disposal come in handy. If we are testing without proper data, we might as well be gambling away our business. With the help of data gathered in the first step of A/B testing, we need to discover where problems lie with our site and come up with a hypothesis. Locking in on sample size. Not many experienced optimizers are statisticians, and I am not. I've been introduced to it, but I'm not a data scientist and I'm not a heavy-duty statistician. So we often make the mistake of calling conclusive results too quickly because we are more often than not after quick results. Fortunately, we have a data scientist on our team to help us with data-related challenges and problems such as sample size, in particular, how long our testing sample size should be based on our page's traffic. Now, the challenge is analyzing the test results. Interpreting the test results after we conclude is extremely important to understand why the test succeeded or failed. A fundamental question to be asked is why. Why did the customers behave the way they did? Why did they react certain ways with one version and not the other? What visitor insights did we gather and how can we use them? This will not only help us make sense of the current test, but also provide inputs for future tests. No failed test is unsuccessful unless we fail to draw learnings from them. Failed campaigns should be treated like pillars that would ultimately lead us to success. Maintaining a test culture. One of the most crucial characteristics of optimization programs like the conversion rate optimization and A/B testing, it is that it is an iterative process. This is also one of the major obstacles that businesses face. For our optimization efforts to be fruitful in the long run, they should form a cycle that roughly starts with research and ends in research. Changing experiment settings in the middle of A/B testing. When we launch an experiment, we must commit to it completely. We must try and not to change our experiment settings, edit or omit our test goals, or play with the design of the control or the variation while it is being tested. Also, we must not change the traffic allocations to variations as well, because doing so will not only alter the sample size of our returning visitors, but massively skew our test results as well. So, A/B testing iterative cycle. We just reviewed. Start with research. Understand your website, understand your processes, understand your app. Log your observations, formulate your hypothesis, run your A/B, set up and run your A/B testing, and deploy the winning version. Oh my goodness. How much time do we have?
We have 10 more minutes.
Oh, I can talk for that long. So A/B testing is search engine optimization. So Google permits and encourages A/B testing and has stated that performing A/B test or multivariate test possesses no inherent risk to the website's search rank. However, it is possible to jeopardize our search rank by abusing an A/B test tool for purposes such as cloaking. Google has articulated some of the best practices to ensure that this doesn't happen. One is no cloaking. Cloaking is a practice of showing search engines different content than a typical user would see. Cloaking can result in our site being demoted or even removed from their search results. To prevent cloaking, do not abuse visitor segmentation, display different content to a Googlebot based on a user, agent, or IP address. Use rel equals canonical. If we run a split test with multiple URLs, we should use the rel equals canonical attribute to point the variations back to the original version of the page. Doing so will help prevent Googlebot from getting confused by multiple versions of the same page. Use 302 redirects instead of 301s. If we run a test that redirects the original URL to a variation, use a 302 or temporary redirect versus a 301 or permanent redirect. This tells the search engines such as Google that the redirect is temporary, and that they should keep the original URL indexed rather than the test URL. Run experiments only for as long as necessary. Running tests for longer than necessary, especially if we are serving one variation of our page to a large percent of users, can be seen as an attempt to deceive search engines. Google recommends updating our site and removing all test variations of our site as soon as the test concludes, and avoid running tests unnecessarily long. Thank you for your time and patience, and I hope there's still somebody here listening. Questions, comments?
Actually, we do have some questions and comments. One of the questions was, from Taz. It's when do you not use A/B testing?
If you don't want to make a data-driven decision, and it could be that you don't want it, because you can see it is resource intensive, and you may be willing to accept the risk of not realizing the improvement you're looking for, that you may be able to definitively say with an A/B test. And so you can say, we're going to sort of fudge the A/B testing, and we're going to do it without a hypothesis, without data-driven. And we're going to say, okay, we're going to implement this change to our website and see if sales go up by a certain amount. But then you are opening yourselves up to myriad of external factors. So I would say start your A/B testing on a small basis and see if you get the results. And if you don't, why you did.
All right. Sounds, I don't know if he answered your question, Taz. Is this good enough? Thank you. All right. That seems to be great. Does anyone have any other question? I think you had a question you answered, how does A and B testing impacts SEO? But I think you already answered that question, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anyone has a question regarding A/B testing? There we go. What this is from Victoria. Yeah. So what are some A/B testing don'ts? Ooh, like the do and don'ts. Yeah.
We reviewed the invalid hypothesis. Testing too many elements together, ignoring statistical significance, using unbalanced traffic, failing to follow an iterative process. And I shouldn't have to tell agile people that. Again, what I was saying should have been very familiar to you. All right. We have a backlog of our test. We have a test goal, a test plan, a backlog of the tests. And another thing I would say is not fully understanding your website and your customers and start A/B testing with that, because that means you don't have a goal and you don't have a backlog. Failing to consider external factors, using the wrong tools. Those are all things I would say to avoid with your A/B testing.
I have one. What is like the biggest risk for using A/B testing?
Not, well, yeah, just flushing your money down the toilet by making some mistakes or trying to start too big. Okay, especially if you're just starting on this. Again, I would say start small and don't be surprised if you fail, but you fail if you don't learn. Okay, but make sure you are following the steps on a small basis. And we know how important a hypothesis is, but even when we're developing, we don't use hypothesis when we're making decisions. I mean, and that goes in everything. I'm going to get on the soapbox now. I am flabbergasted that, well, not flabbergasted. To me, our legislators should say this is the problem, fully defined, understood, because that's how it's solved. This is the problem we are trying to solve. This is the legislation we are going to enact, expecting these results in this amount of time. How wonderful would that be? Saying we're going to pass this legislation and we expect to see these in this amount of time. And after this amount of time, 6 months, if we haven't seen it, we have failed. But be ready to admit we have failed, because then we learn. I hope I didn't get off on too much of a tangent.
No, that's great. We do have a couple of more questions, Coach. Could you please elaborate on how you can A/B test subject lines and forms? This is from Tim.
Yeah. So subject lines in an email. That's, to me, one of the simpler ones. Is when you're communicating with your customer or potential customer through email, you would say, okay, this is our current subject line. These are the results we're seeing, and we want to drive this result, and we're going to try this subject line to see either we get more people opening the email or responding to the email. And same thing with a form. We say, this is a form we use when we sign up a customer or a customer registers, and this is the results we're seeing. And we want to realize this improvement. More customers sign up. We get more information from our customers so we can serve them better. So we have this form and we're not seeing the results we want. So we say, okay, we want a hypothesis. We want to see this improvement or this. So this is the change. And again, so on one, if it's a website form, on this one website, we have our control, and our variation, we have the other form. When they click on it, they open up the variation, and then we see the results we have from there.
All right. I don't know if that answered the question, Tim. Let us know.
Yes, it did. I was a little bit confused because I was thinking about testing as far as a visual comparison, and so subject lines and form.
Subject line is email, yeah. Subject line is email, and forms are, what a customer or potential customer fills out to register with you,
right,
or pay you.
Yeah, for sure. But that makes sense how you explained it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
You're welcome.
We have another question from Crunchy. What is the difference between A/B testing and preference testing?
I don't know.
Well,
Sorry.
heard it. Okay.
I'm not going to make things up.
Okay, I'm gonna Google it. Don't worry.
Anybody? Well, let's open it up to the floor. Anybody else
Yeah.
want to answer that question? I will fully open that up to the floor.
Hold on, let me Google it.
Oh, yeah, Joe, Google it. Yeah, please.
While we're waiting, if someone else wants to go, I got another question. So I was asking a little bit before, like, who should kind of run this thing? He said it could be marketing, it could be for some of the audience members who may be either Scrum Masters or Agile coaches, should they work with those departments and kind of drive it a little bit with those departments, or how does it come to be? I know you said start small, but knowing the business is imperative, right? So you can know to look for changes. But how do those two worlds mix?
I was just about to
Yeah.
ask that question. Thank you, Joe.
I got involved as the quality assurance, quality control analyst at the company. And so, that is sort of has one foot in the data driven, and also at that point, I was on my path to become a data scientist. So I appreciated data driven decisions. So in that company, I was sort of the instigator, and I was also becoming a scrum master. I had become a scrum master, and I was moving back and forth between all those roles. So yeah, that was our experience as I took that up as I saw the opportunity for this. But yeah, I would say either your quality department, maybe your data scientist also, because they're familiar with that. But again, I would say the IT department too, if they're very familiar with the agile process, and they should be, because you saw how this just fits right in with everything we do as agile developers. It's just expanded. But you can sell it. Now you can sell it to marketing. That's how you would do it. You pique their interest. You get to a marketing manager or something and say, hey, I mean, we may have an opportunity. And another thing is get your UI UX
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Because
UI UX.
That's to me kind of working with the UX team to kind of draw out those two different things that the customer would test, get that feedback, and then marketing be interested so they can see where the traffic is. And then if you do that, then you're gonna get more of a stronghold, and then you can actually apply those improvements to through your team to the business.
Yeah, I'm probably going to step on somebody's toe, but I'm not afraid of doing that. But my experience with UI UX specialists is they don't think they ever do anything wrong. So everything they put out is going to improve everything, and you don't need to measure it, just trust it. So that was one of the things, don't trust it. So
okay.
Yeah, David. But yeah, get them involved, because they should be involved.
But aren't you collecting the data through UX team? I mean, they're building out whatever the prototypes or whatever, and they're collecting that data. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but see, the problem.
I mean, it is one feedback loop, right?
Yeah, but the problem is when your data might prove that their UI UX failed, and they don't want to help prove they're a failure. It's an ego thing. So
gotcha.
I'm probably stepping on UI UX specialist toes, but no, I'm being sort of facetious. But yes, do get them involved, and they will probably be able to help, because really their thought is, this is the way to prove that what I am doing improves what we have, and it just proves my worth to the company. So that's another way to get them involved and buy in.
Great. There is one more question, Coach. I think we have some time. What is the difference? This is from Brianna Del Valle. What is the difference between A/B testing and machine learning?
I would say the difference is that A/B testing, possibly you could say, uses machine learning, but with machine learning, what you're doing is you're setting aside some of your sample data to prove what you have changed, if I remember machine learning correctly, to prove what your hypothesis is. So you have a set of data already. Machine learning says it's going to prove your hypothesis. After looking some of that, you say, I'm going to use this. But A/B testing, I would say A/B testing uses machine learning is the data scientist tool that they may be able to leverage in your A/B testing. That's my pretty much off the cuff thought.
So trying to use Alexa to do A/B testing, is that what the question is?
They actually do. Absolutely. Amazon deploys over 10,000 changes an hour to any variety of things. it is entirely possible that you might get a different web page for the exact same product if you access it in the morning or in the afternoon. And that
Or an hour
sort
later.
of, and that sort of stuff isn't even driven by human decisions anymore, or things that are being deployed by the developer. The developer deploys certain options into a staging system that then a machine learning thing comes along behind and say, how has Marcelo been looking at products like this? Let's feed him this and see what the rat does. Oh, the rat bit the cheese. Okay, let's see what I feed the rat next. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I asked Alexa something.
And-
She's like,
and-
I
and
don't know
yes,
the answer to
I-
that.
I bear a striking resemblance to a rat. Okay, we've established. Moving right along. Moving right along.
All right. Okay. I think we might have time for one more question, but if you don't have more questions, I'm gonna ask you, please kindly turn on your cameras because we do.
I have
I'm
one
sorry,
more
go
thing.
ahead.
I have one
Yeah,
more
yeah.
thing to say. As Savia used to say, you have all been baptized.
Baptized.
Amen to that. All right.
You put up for an hour with me, so that means you've been baptized.
And my hair's not even wet.
Oh my gosh, that's great. We're very definitely happy to have you, Coach. So yeah, so we want to commemorate this moment by taking a picture and just sharing on LinkedIn. This is a free event, but we ask you to just comment and just make sure this content can get to more people. And we do that by commenting and liking, so please turn on your camera so we can just see you there and we can have a beautiful picture. All right, we want to just show and just share with Bob what we thought of this presentation and how great, how great it was for us. It's always nice to learn something new. It's always nice to be able to ask questions and get them answered. So yes, too blessed to be stressed. That's definitely my motto for today or for this week. Yes. I love it.